So hi everyone, welcome to AMSA's very first episode of podcast. And so before we start, I would like to introduce myself. I'm the host for this time podcast. I'm Daniel. I'm one of the hosts for AMSA USMKK. And then one of the speaker that will be joining us today is Miss Evelyn. So Miss Evelyn, would you care to introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi Daniel, and hi to the very first podcast of AMSA USMKK. So I'm so excited to be here. I am currently a clinical psychology trainee with USM, and I'm doing my first placement right now with Hospital USM as well. And this is how I got to know about AMSA and Daniel as well.
Yes, and we're excited to have you here too. So, right now I'm going to talk about the general idea of mental health. So this is something I picked up from the World Health Organization. How they define mental health. So the World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being in which individuals realize his abilities, cope stressful lives, and also their work productivity. And how true is that, would you say, Ms. Evelyn, on the definition?
I think that definition is definitely accurate because it covers three things. First of all, it covers about general well-being. Secondly, it talks about how the person has the ability to cope. And thirdly, it talks about general level of functioning. Because even in my field, we generally see people based on the level of functioning. If you're able to function, generally you do not need to seek any psychological services.
Yes, that's true, because often we heard about low productivity in people who face depression, and something that we actually talk about a lot. So this mental health, the word of mental health, and then also the words of depression, we actually heard more often nowadays, right? So what would you think back? How would you actually facing mental health back then in your in your high school life, that periods of how would you guys
Yes.
So how do you guys, so care to explain a little bit more, like how do you guys cope with mental health, and how do mental health being taught a lot in your generation back then in high school?
All right. High school was a while ago, yes, but generally from what I remember, sadly, no, mental health not very much talked about. Like, if any the issues that we faced back then, you get the understanding that people think that you lack attention, you are being silly, or somehow you don't have common sense. And sometimes those who actually engage in self-harm, which is the act of perhaps most often will be using something sharp like a knife on your arms. It will be thought of as weak, will be thought of as, this person has something wrong, and they may get sent for counseling. So I think one really memorable situation that I actually experienced in high school was where one of the teachers actually made all of us girls, I'm from a girls' school, she made all of us show our arms just to show who is actually engaging in self-harm and who is not. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I'm shocked, and I'm really glad that things are getting much better now compared to back then. Even though it's not like perfect, but we can see the progress. But however, mental health did grow. Like people's awareness toward it did grow more, because even when I was 14, I have to do my own research about it, but it wasn't. Yeah, that is why. So, would you think it's better now, like the mental health nowadays compared to back then?
Definitely. Like I mean, from your experience, you actually did a class project on mental health as well. Generally, I am hearing more people, young adults, actually talking about going for therapy or seeking treatment. It could come from a very knowledgeable perspective, meaning that they understand better in terms of what it means to have be experiencing mental health issues, whether it's the usual depression or anxiety issues. So they may not reveal it to everybody they know, but at least it's coming from a more open perspective currently.
Yes, which is something that we can agree and we're really proud of. So for today's podcast, right, we are going to focus more on, the help, seeking help, lending help, and generally just, how to make someone who faces or in the verge of mental breakdown or people who are facing depression to feel better about themselves. And this is literally what are we going to focus on our podcast today. So for our podcast today, I'm going to divide it into 3 small parts where the first one is how can we lend a hand to our friends. The second part with our self-help, self-coping, and then the very last part, of course, how to seek professional help. So let's start with how to help our friend, because we're sure that we all can agree one thing is that this pandemic have taken a toll on our mental health. So my question is that how to approach a friend, because sometimes we see the signs like our friend is having depression, but we don't know how to approach them. So that is something that I think the audience want to hear about.
All right, I think it's a very, very good question in terms of you see something, you know something is going on, but how to actually bring up the question. So I think sometimes just bear in mind that depression may not come with obvious signs. So what usually happens is that when someone is depression actually shares about the condition, the usual response is that they got shocked. But what you are able to observe will be how come this person is getting more and more reserved, not sharing so much anymore, or how come I've been trying to reach out, I'm trying to speak to this person, but this person doesn't come out and hang out with the friends anymore. So how to approach them is, I think, number one, by pushy. Generally, your friend might not be in a correct point or correct state of mind to share. So I guess the easiest and most straightforward approach would be just to let them know that you're there. So a good way to start would be, hey, I noticed that you haven't been talking out again recently. I wonder how you've been doing. And just so that you know, I'm here for you if you want to talk about it. So this will be a really good approach because you let your friend know that you're there. And secondly, you're not pressured to share. And then thirdly, they know that when they are ready to talk, you're there for them.
Yeah, so that is actually very important to show that we're available for someone, and then to force someone to open up, it takes time for someone to open up. And I think after like our friend, for example, after we approaches our friend and then they would seek help from us, they want to talk to us about it. So the one thing that a lot of teens sometimes are facing is that teens will talk to their friends more than their parents, of course, and then for example, our friend would talk to us and then confide to us about their problems and all that. So how will it make us a good listener? Because there's this term we heard, like how to be a good listener all the time, and then we know that being a good listener is very important in dealing with this kind of issue. So yeah.
I think the most straightforward thing in terms of how to be a good listener is just to basically listen, because most of the time it's that our thoughts run away. Number one, you'll be feeling like, oh my goodness, I didn't expect this person to just start sharing with me. I was just asking generally, how are you doing? This person suddenly shares about everything, their emotions. As a listener, sometimes that's the best. So the best way would just to be present. Meaning, you don't have to be worried about what am I going to do about this, what is the appropriate response, or should I get someone else to help. But the best thing you can do at that moment is just to listen. So don't worry about the response. Just try to listen in terms of what the person is saying, and then non-verbal body language can already let the person know that you're there. Like, for example, leaning forward, nodding my head, maintaining eye contact. These are really important in making the person feel heard.
Yeah. That's why body posture, they give a lot of meanings, and also it actually makes people feel more comfortable. And there's this term that I always heard is like active listener, and I don't really understand about that term, so you try to explain more on that.
So in terms of active listening, I would say it's one step beyond just being a good listener, because when you're active listening, there's a lot of process going on. So I've actually thought of these 4 skills that is probably also under effective or active listening, which is number 1, asking open-ended questions. Number 2, using affirmations. Number 3, reflective listening. And number 4, summarizing. So it actually comes in this very nice acronym called OARS, OARS. Yeah. So I'll probably explain a little bit about what are these four skills that you can have.
Sure.
Yeah. So in terms of open-ended, it's basically just the opposite of closed-ended questions. You ask questions to make the person feel more comfortable to share. So instead of asking yes, no answer questions like, so did you do this? So they can only say yes or no. You can put that question into, so what did you do? So how did you feel? What happened after that? So when you ask open-ended questions, it's active because the person can engage better. So that's number 1. In terms of reflective listening, it's actually more of reflecting or just saying how you sort of hear the person is feeling. So you can start off with, so you feel like you're upset because so and so said this to you. Or you can say, it sounds like you're scared of moving ahead in your life. So you're sort of like talking about feelings. So I think I skipped A. A is affirmation. Affirmation is just giving little compliments about the person, which it's sort of genuine and really concrete. For example, you're really resourceful, or you're giving really good suggestions, or I appreciate you meeting with me today, even though things are not going well for you. So this is how you can actually make the person feel better, or look at the positive side, even though they are going through really sad circumstances. And lastly, it will be summarizing, meaning like it's just a good way of letting the person know that, oh, I was listening just now. You can say, this is what I understand so far. You're saying that this not that. So it's a good way of making the person feel that the person will definitely feel appreciative because you were really listening, or you can make whatever they were saying into a very concise message. So sometimes he also tells them, oh, I didn't know that this was what I was really talking about. So make the situation seem a little bit more simple for them as well. So this is OARS, or yeah.
That's very, very informative. And I did have some friend that did that kind of happened to me, like they become an active listener, and then it really felt good. And then when I heard how to be an active listener, the tips from you, and then I just realized that it does works, and then it's very important also. And then I think that what can I summarize from this is and also one more thing that I would think that I want to add is like to the audience is that I think most of the time when people want to open up, right, they want to talk, is that they want someone to just listen, and then they don't want solution. I think that's the thing about being a listener. You don't have to provide solution.
Really, sometimes, right? Like this person is talking to me, and if I need to say something or I need to solve the problem, but actually that's not. You just need to be present.
Yes, to make them feel comfortable. Okay, so the self-help part, which is something that you've been doing for your research, something which is when things aren't going well, right? So we sometimes have to do self-coping. And then there's this one thing that you told me about the mindfulness activity that you've been doing, and I think the audience would like to hear more about that, the mindfulness activity that you've been doing.
Yes, so mindfulness is something that's up and coming, and it's just a way of therapy that actually incorporates the idea of being aware of what is going on, aware of your feelings, being aware of your behavior, and that one added on with the acceptance of whatever that is going on. So even though you're aware that, oh, I've had a bad day today, but the ability to accept that, meaning like I've had a bad day today, but I still conquered the day. I still went through it. So when you're able to be aware of it and accept it, the idea is that your coping skill increases, and you're less likely to face issues such as depression, anxiety, stress, or you face it with a better way. So in terms of the research that I'm doing currently, it's quite interesting because I'm doing it in a team with other clinical psychologists and some professors from the hospital as well. So we actually targeted the most stressful population that we know of, which are doctors. So doctors who are actually said to be one of the most one of the group of population that's most stressful and therefore actually face the highest risk of mental health issues. So therefore, to reach out to them, we adapted and customized an online platform which delivers mindfulness activities in small dosages. Meaning like every day they only need to log into the online platform. They will receive a guided audio or video recording on how to engage in mindfulness activities such as mindful breathing, mindful walking, or even mindful eating. So the idea is that when they are able to use these skills and incorporate it in their daily lives, they are less likely or they are better equipped to face stress or any potential risk from mental health issues.
I see. Is I have actually one question on this mindfulness activity. Is it have you heard about the body scan meditation where you listen and then people will tell you how to breathe and all that? Is it almost like the same?
Correct. So it's mostly of a grounding. You can scan your body. You can move your five senses, or you can just focus on a certain part of your body to breathe. So all these are different variations to mindfulness activities as well.
I see. I've been doing it before sleep every night actually.
Wow! No wonder you don't look stressed anymore.
Actually, I did, and then it accumulated up until the night before I sleep, and then I released all of that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good strategy. So that's what I tell my participants to do as well, to engage in these activities before they sleep. So actually, we are in the midst of getting more participants currently as well. So anyone who's a doctor from Hospital USM can actually apply or contact me. I think we will have my contact details by email along with this podcast. So I actually look forward to assisting or helping people to be better in terms of facing challenges in mental health issues.
Wow, that's really amazing to hear actually. So I heard when I started my medical school, my first block, they would talk about, doctors is the most, stressful, something like that, one of the most stressful. And then they told us about unhealthy coping mechanism, which they teach us something like that. And one of them is venting. And what's your take on that? Is venting a really bad, a very bad method of, self-coping with stress?
When you say venting, do you mean like just finding someone and then just verbally expressing how you're feeling?
Yes.
Okay. I would say maybe if you are coming from the perspective of sharing how you feel you're feeling the stresses, maybe it could be a good coping method. But the way you sort of say it when it's thing, it sounds like there's a lot of like verbal diarrhea going on, right? You don't care who you're talking to or like how the person may be responding. The only thing you can do is I want to release all my emotions right here and now, and that's all I want to do. Is that more venting?
Actually, I do think venting is more in that way because sometimes people mix up like sharing with venting. Yeah, so that is why it's very important to address this.
That's true.
Because I find that it is sharing really helps for me coping with the mental stress. But so we've been through like how to be a listener, how to help our friends and how to help ourselves, but if things doesn't work out, for example, when days just get worse and everything, things just doesn't work out, and then someone decided to seek for professional help. So how would the process be? Because in Malaysia we don't really hear much about having help from psychiatrists. Because if, for example, if I tell my mom right now I need a psychiatrist, she would say, "What is wrong with you?" She wouldn't even want to let me. So yeah.
Or she'll tell you to like you should just suck it up and then be a man.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah. Before I go into passionate business again, I think one thing that I would really like to emphasize is seek help before things get really, really bad. So I think right now, even in the hospital, that's the general picture that I think about only seeking help when the situation is really bad or when things have gone out of hand. So one personal note that I would like to add on is like don't do that only when things get bad. So once you realize, maybe from some little signs, I'm isolating myself from people, I'm not sleeping well, I'm not eating well, starting to lose weight for no reason, I think it's already signs that you seek help at that point. So once you get a referral to the hospital and you're known to the hospital, it'll be easy for them to guide you through whether it's the clinical psychology services, which is where I'm based, or even straight to the psychiatry department, where they will give you medication if it's necessary. Yeah, so that is one way of going about things.
Yeah, because I heard first of all we don't hear a lot of like how we actually can seek help professionally, and then second of all it's always people will always afraid of the costs, because sometimes we heard a lot of news about like seeking a therapy or a psychiatrist or a psychologist is actually expensive and all that. So that is why a lot of people, that is one reason why people don't really seek professional help. And then there's another method which I heard about, which is the hotline. Have you heard about the befriend list?
Yeah. Something that I've definitely heard of, yes, and they do really good.
So these hotlines do, provide help also, right? In terms of listening and guiding.
Yeah, there are actually a few hotlines that are ongoing right now in the whole of Malaysia, and especially more since COVID-19 happened, and they are more worried about who want to seek help but are not sure where to go. So there are actually quite a few hotlines right now.
Yes. So is there any final word from you? Is there anything you want to say, before we end our session? Is there anything you would like to add?
I guess the final thing I would like to say is generally mental health is not something scared of. It is not scary. It is actually a part of yourself and the process of getting to know yourself better. So loving ourselves, getting to know ourselves is just beyond our physical needs, and it is something that's really important. So I would say embrace it and improve your mental well-being. Yeah.
True, I think we should really take like mental health serious as when we talk about we have to do sports and like to keep our body healthy. That's the same thing goes to our mind. It's just as important as our body. It's part of it. So I think that's really important to actually start to have the awareness and start to actually really care about our mental well-being.
That's true.
So before we end, I would like to first of all thank Miss Evelyn for spending her precious time and in guiding us, and which I myself learned a lot from this talk, and I hope that the audience also learned a lot from this talk, because it is important getting guides, how to be a listener and also seek help. Those are like the important things. And so I would also like to thank the audience for listening, and always remember to be compassionate, treat your friends and always be there for them. Never neglect someone. So before I end, I would like just final thing is that stay safe during this pandemic, social distancing and all that. So I guess that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.